Let's turn now to Minnesota, where school officials there say Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement officers, ICE, detained a 5-year-old boy who was coming home from preschool. They say the boy was being used as, quote, bait by officers. Katie Nicholson has been following the story for us from Washington. And Katie, what more do we know about this situation?
Well, we got some pushback from the Columbia Heights School Board officials today against what DHS has been saying, and lawyer Mark Prokash on what has happened on Tuesday when 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos, that 5-year-old, was taken by ICE after arriving home from preschool while his father was in their driveway. So Vice President JD Vance had characterized earlier today Liam's dad as a, quote, illegal alien. But Mark Prokash, the lawyer on the case, said that's not true. He said that Liam and his dad are from Ecuador, that they did everything right. He said that they used the CBP app to make an asylum claim, that they were showing up for court hearings. And the school superintendent even vouched for that. She said she had seen all of their documentation. And the lawyer said there also didn't appear to be any criminal records for the dad. Mary Granlund, she is the chair of the school board for Columbia Heights Public Schools. She said that she was actually on the scene as Liam and his dad were being taken into custody. And she said that she believes Liam was being used as bait, sort of being walked up to the door. Here is what she said she saw.
So I was on my way to get my own children from school, and I heard the commotion and saw all the people. And as I got out of my car and came around the corner, I heard, "What are you doing? Don't take the child." His mom, like, there are people here that can take him. There was another adult who lived in the home that was there saying, "I will take the child. I will take the child." Somebody else was yelling. They saw that I was there and said, "The school is here. They can take the child. You don't have to take them." And there was ample opportunity to be able to safely hand that child off to adults. And mom was there. She saw out the window, and dad was yelling, "Please do not open the door. Don't open the door," because of the other picture that I'm sure you've seen, where there's a little boy knocking at the door with an ICE agent looming over him.
And they also talked about how 4 kids have now been taken from their schools, they said, by armed and masked men, and how students are scared and feel unsafe. We were also told that Liam and his dad, they are in Dilley. That is, it's a containment or detention center outside of San Antonio, known for family containment. And according to the lawyer, they are likely being held together. Now, DHS, it says that Liam's dad abandoned him when ICE officers sort of approached him to make the arrest, and that its ICE officers basically remained with the child for the child's own safety. And the vice president today had argued, what were the ICE officers supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? But again, as we heard from the school board chair there, it appeared that there was a parent willing to keep Liam, and that there were also school officials on site who also could have taken custody of him. So really countering some of the lines that have been thrown out there by DHS and the vice president.
And whatever happened, hard to look at those pictures of a 5-year-old kid, like every 5-year-old, such an innocent kid. The vice president, JD Vance, is in Minnesota as tensions continue to rise. What did he have to say?
Yeah, Ian, Vance had said he was coming here to try to calm things down and also to bring forward this message to the people of Minnesota to stop fighting this immigration enforcement. And his main message, though, was really to implore local officials for cooperation, which he said really would end the chaos of the last few months. Now, as we've been reporting out for months now, the local officials on the ground have made it clear, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department, Minneapolis Police, they are not going to take part in any kind of federal immigration enforcement. Vance really tried to sell the notion that the ICE operations in Minneapolis are focused on criminals, and that if local officials would just help, it would be much less chaotic. Here is JD Vance.
The local authorities have been told, do not cooperate. So these guys are trying to go out and enforce the law. They're trying to arrest sex offenders, but they're trying to do it in an environment where local officials have been told, do not help them, do not provide intelligence about where these sex offenders might be. This is disgraceful. And there are a lot of things that all of us could do better to lower the temperature, but the number one thing that I learned today is that the best way to facilitate reasonable enforcement of the law, but also to lower the chaos in Minneapolis, would be for state and local officials to cooperate.
Now, Vance said there that, he was there to help try to bring down the temperature, but he also noted that he hadn't spoken to Governor Walz on this trip. He did say that the chief of staff had been in contact with Walz. And this is happening against a backdrop of federal actions that could be perceived as raising the temperature, right? So federal Justice Department subpoenaing Tim Walz, the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul, alleging that they're obstructing ICE's immigration enforcement efforts, talking about putting troops on standby to come into the Twin Cities. The president musing about possibly enacting the Insurrection Act. That also hasn't helped to bring down those tensions. And Vance also didn't extend an invite to his roundtable earlier today to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry, something that Fry noted this evening. The mayor had questioned Vance's assertions that ICE's operations in Minneapolis are really focused on criminals. Here's a little bit of what Mayor Fry had to say.
You can't say with a straight face that pulling citizens off the street or going into a school is a targeted action when clearly it's not. Clearly, what we are seeing on our streets right now is discriminating only on the basis of race and largely indiscriminate thereafter.
Now, Ian, DOJ, the Attorney General Pam Bondi was posting today about 3 arrests that have been made in connection to the church on Sunday, where a number of protesters went in. That's where there is a pastor who is also an ICE employee. So those things were posted. Among them was a noted civil rights lawyer and advocate. All of this happening ahead of a massive strike and protest planned tomorrow in the Twin Cities to protest ICE. That's where shops are expected to close, schools will be closed. People will be going out in minus 20-something Celsius to protest ICE tomorrow.
Katie Nicholson in Washington, thank you.
You're welcome.
So are people in Minneapolis, how are they feeling about this visit? Jason DeRusha is a journalist and a radio host. He just finished today's radio show, Drive Time with DeRusha. Thank you very much for joining us once again on the program. Let's start with JD Vance's visit and comments. How are people reacting to that?
Well, I think, Ian, our listeners were optimistic that there would be a chance that this could be a little bit of breakthrough. There are, of course, hardliners on both sides, as you would expect. Some who are glad that ICE is here and enforcing, others who are opposed to any of this. And there are a lot of us in the middle who are outraged by seeing a 5-year-old child being detained, whatever the explanation is, as you noted. It's hard to get past the emotions of that. So what could the vice president be doing here? Well, he met with a bunch of ICE agents, which is good. I think a lot of people are empathetic to the fact that these guys are doing their jobs. Questions about their tactics, of course, but they are trying to do the job that they were assigned to do. But, what's the point of coming here if you're not going to talk to the governor or the mayors or the counties or the sheriffs? What are we doing? It's political theater is really what it is. And frankly, you and I have talked about this before. This is, I think, where a lot of my listeners are getting frustrated. Where's the action?
So the 5-year-old kid, so we both said, like, you look at the picture of that kid and the kid's innocent, right? It doesn't matter what the circumstances are around that. It's hard to imagine that a kid snatched from his porch and detained somewhere. What impact do you think this incident is going to have on a city that, at least from afar, seems to be so tense? Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of thing that becomes a turning point, right? For a lot of people who maybe didn't want to speak up. Boy, it's hard to just look at this and say, like, oh, well, it's the cost of enforcing immigration laws. Preposterous. And as more reporting comes out, you can decide who you want to believe. I will say that when the state of Minnesota has done investigations of sort of the initial stories on various arrests or various interactions that immigration agents have had with our community, the initial stories from the feds turn out almost always to be untrue or exaggerated. So in this case, when they're trying to say, like, oh, no, the guy we were after made a run for it, the dad of the 5-year-old,
And so did you expect us to keep them out in the cold? That's what JD Vance said today. And, as you learn more and more, it does appear that the dad and the 5-year-old were both working through the asylum process. And so they were here legally. There was not an active deportation order. So to me, it's a tough one to swallow, right? Anybody can think about being that parent or you don't even have to be a parent to look at a 5-year-old being hauled off by immigration authorities and say, what have we become?
Yeah, and especially if you're a parent. I'm kind of curious. Now, you have a pretty high profile, so I don't know if you get a good sense at the supermarket or somewhere else of what life is like away from the protests, away from the news conferences. But I'm curious, after the last couple of weeks in Minneapolis, what is life like in your city?
Yeah, it's such a great question because it's very dependent on where you are. If you are in the heart of Minneapolis and St. Paul, actually seeing immigration agents doing their work is part of your daily life. Hearing the whistles of protesters sounding the alarm, hey, ICE agents are here. That's part of daily life. If you go out to the suburbs or out to the rural parts of Minnesota, there is stuff happening. In my small suburb, my hometown Mexican restaurant is closed because their workers are afraid to come to work, to leave their home. So that is sort of an impact that people are feeling it. But the number one thing people are talking about, and your correspondent spoke to this perfectly, it's cold here, Ian. Right now, we are at about 30 below 0 Celsius. Tomorrow morning when the kids wake up, it's going to be about 40 below Celsius wind chill. And so schools are closing. You have this general strike, which you have some experience with in Canada. It's more of a European phenomenon, not very common in America. And so the impact of the general strike will be tough to tell because so many schools are going to be canceled because it's too cold to have kids waiting for the bus.
Really good point. I mean, I know Minnesotans are hardy, but minus 40 degrees will test everyone. And even though minus 40 is the same in both, extra credit for expressing it in Celsius, Jason.
I did my homework for you, Ian. I didn't want to disappoint the Canadian audience with some nonsense Fahrenheit. Come on.
And you have not disappointed at all. As I say, I haven't yet. I need to listen to your show online because I have a feeling it's pretty lively. Jason DeRusha, a journalist and radio host in Minneapolis. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ian.